doing. So again, I want to thank everybody for taking the opportunity to join us today, and appreciate we all have very busy lives and a lot going on. But again, we at the ARA really think it's important that we share with industry opportunities for how to become more efficient, and obviously all of these things equating to more profitability for industry, because those are the key components. What makes your business thrive is the ability to be profitable and to generate sufficient revenues. So some of the content we're going to cover off today through ALLDATA is talking about some of the top missed items in industry, as well as some of the ALLDATA best practices and the repair planner. And then it's an opportunity for any feedback for industry to provide as well too. And what I want to be able to do is introduce our speakers that we have today. So bear with me one second here. So basically, we have Jonathan Lamb, and Jonathan is the National Program Sales Manager at ALLDATA, and he partners with body shop owners nationwide to drive growth through through innovative technology solutions. He's got a strong background in both the automotive and collision industries, and he brings years of experience in solution-based selling and operational consulting. So in his role, Jonathan focuses on helping shops streamline workflow, improve accuracy, and boost profitability through the strategic use of ALLDATA tools. So easy way to spot Jonathan. He's wearing the orange shirt. Now you'll see that Timothy Brown is also shown as Jonathan, as just because of a technical glitch and servers not allowing the panelist invite to come through. So Tim Brown is on screen as well, and Tim is the vertical business manager for collision and insurance for ALLDATA in North America. He's responsible for the growth and development of the collision segment for ALLDATA, and while providing workflow consultation to collision shops, insurance carriers, and warranty covered companies through leveraging ALLDATA's best-in-class software solutions. He's also responsible for industry partnerships and OE relationships in the collision segment. His 20+ years of industry experience with Mitchell International and ALLDATA gives him a well-rounded perspective on mentoring ALLDATA sales and support teams, as well as industry partners and shops. So basically, we have a lot of horsepower here today, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan and let him start the process. Thank you, Jonathan.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having us. Good afternoon, everybody. Look forward to this meeting and how we can best help you guys. So in a nutshell, going to go over a couple of things within PowerPoint as far as what we're going to discuss. Then we're going to jump right into the content for the day. So for the objectives for today, we want to identify commonly missed operations in a collision repair and understand how they impact profitability on every estimate. We want to learn how to implement best practice workflow using ALLDATA to streamline the repair planning process, and how you can use ALLDATA in every day on every estimate. We want to leverage the efficiency that ALLDATA can bring and the consistency and correct documentation, which obviously would result in a safe, profitable, and effective repair. And we ask and encourage you to engage in any feedback. Please use the chat during the session. I'll be monitoring the chat while Tim is presenting throughout the demonstration and training with our product. A couple of things that we want to identify when we're looking at blueprinting an estimate. We want to review the position statements, obviously check for any open recalls, any safety issues that pop up as well. We've also got some new features within our system, the quick reference chart for ADAS, and then obviously our repair planning tool that allows you to build your estimate in a timely, efficient manner that we're going to cover off on. We're going to identify, like what I was saying, we're going to identify commonly missed repair items and where you can find those repair items within ALLDATA, as well as an additional tool, the ALLDATA library, and then how you can utilize that for your shop. Lastly, we're going to go over the ALLDATA repeatable process. That's been a proven and efficient plan or procedure to document, find, and locate any items that you may be missing in your repair. And then we'll discuss how you can leverage ALLDATA for the purposes of negotiating any work that needs to be accomplished on the vehicle. Then we're going to go over a demonstration here in just a few seconds. Then we'll break out with any questions and concerns and feedback that you guys have. So with that, Tim is going to take over the screen and give us some additional training specifically in ALLDATA. So Tim, take it away.
Hey, thanks everybody. You guys see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the introduction there, Jonathan. ALLDATA, let everyone know we're now up to 80 million pages of information. So there's a ton of stuff. We routinely see that our product is a little bit underutilized when it comes to shops. And I want to kind of reemphasize that best practice workflow that Jonathan showed. And this can be really there's different ways we can approach this, different order, but we have this PDF available. Some of you may already be ALLDATA customers. Maybe some of you are thinking about becoming customers. We can certainly share this if you like, kind of a best practice workflow in the program, and we can review this at the end. But typically, I have more tiles here on my screen. Typically, if when you're using ALLDATA, you're going to have the ALLDATA red tile here, and probably the community tile, and maybe the estimator tile here. And before I get into the product, just want to highlight this fact. I get asked all the time. I travel the country talking to shops, consulting with shops and insurance companies, and they say, well, is your content really OE information? It is. It's 100% unedited OE information. And to give you a snapshot of what's updated, I'll show you this here. This is our vehicle data publishing. Just in May alone of 2025, 646 new TSBs were added. And just to give you a kind of a flavor here, we start off here with Audi 2024 Q8 was added, but we've got a 2013 Buick was updated. So we're continually getting, literally on a daily basis, updated from the manufacturers, right? We have the most comprehensive selection of manufacturers and information, and we are continually adding, literally daily. And then we publish this by month, just an idea of, it gives you an idea of, how the product is constantly being added to and changed. So just a ton of stuff between updates and new, because manufacturers are continually changing things. So I just want to call that out, that it's constantly being updated. And again, as Jonathan mentioned, any questions, please feel free to enter in the chat. And Jonathan, if it's a burning question, feel free to interrupt me, right? We can have an interactive discussion. As we get into ALLDATA collision, right, there's numerous ways of looking up a vehicle. Of course, year, make, model, or VIN. And then now we've got the plate option. Some in their shops, would prefer to look up via plate. We can do that now. Just type it in here and we'll be able to pull up a vehicle rather quickly. So if we click on a vehicle, it takes us right in here. I can enter it in like I showed, or that list to the right, we can easily click on something that you had just considered. And then if you want to change vehicles here, we can hit change, right? And your last few vehicles that you've looked up will come up, or you can put your make and model in here easily, right? So starting from left from right, we got popular information. This is a newer icon here for us. Before, to get to position statements, we had to go up to reference collision, and that would punch out, and you have to go to a different tab to find that. Position statements are now embedded in the product. So we click on position statements, going to take us right into the make and model, or the make that we're already on, 2019 Lexus truck, right? Here's all the position statements that the factory has published, right? Every manufacturer is different on what they feel like they need to publish. So many different things here, some airbag information, and even some specific year stuff that's labeled by specific year, collision damage precautions, frame repair, replacement, so just some different articles that factory has published, right? For the longest time, one of the main ones that shops were looking up had to do with pre and post scans, right? Sometimes sectioning, whatever, you're going to be able to find, here's your bulletin from Toyota Lexus right here, talking about quarter panel sectioning, procedure, blah, 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 blah. This is actually an old one from 1998, ASC stamp on here, but it really helps give us some pertinent information that Toyota and Lexus is calling attention to, or those position statements. So really, really convenient being right here under popular information. Of course, we've got the DTC table here. This is, of even utmost importance for collision shops anymore because of the prevalence of scanning in the shop, right? Pre and post scans, our diagnostic trouble code tables will be able to decipher, whatever comes up on your scan tool, whether it's a pre, a mid, or a post scan, right? It's got all the code charts here. And each one hyperlinked to what it is, right? So when you do pre-scan a vehicle and or post or whatever, you're going to get all the information right here, clicking on the code that comes up on your scan tool. Very easy to access. Service tables, TSBs. We're finding a lot of shops are in the collision space are not looking at technical service bulletins. A lot of times, there'll be some TSBs that are related to whatever you're doing to the vehicle. So real important to check TSBs. It could be, I always say that shops are servicing their customers better if they're making their customers aware of any TSBs on their vehicles. Maybe, especially since collision shops get a lot of newer vehicles in there, maybe a mechanic, the car hasn't been into a mechanical shop, and a customer may be aware of any TSBs on their vehicle. So for us, it's a best practice to be able to communicate those TSBs to your customer and overall give them better service and awareness as to what's going on with their particular vehicle. Diagrams, of course, many shops are concerned with diagrams, but again, with shops doing more and more ADAS component repair replacement, diagrams can be a necessity. We've got, just some incredible vehicle diagrams. We'll pick one here. Powertrain management, for instance. I don't know if any of you have seen these before, but we're the only company that does side-by-side wiring diagrams if you have a need for that, right? Most other applications will list them vertically and not horizontally. This is, really advantageous on, being able to trace a circuit if you need to, right? Again, not something that's used by a lot of collision shops, but want to make the awareness that those are available, right? So we've got two different sets of diagrams in our system. One is the factory OE, and the other ones are the color interactive non-OE. So we've got two choices. It's really the only thing that's not OE in our system, even though we do have the black and white OE diagrams. We've also got that interactive one that most shops prefer to use. Most mechanical shops that specialize in electrical will use the non-OE ones that are interactive. It's a lot easier to pinpoint things through there. We got specs, of course, parts and labor and maintenance. Parts and labor is something I want to call out that a lot of shops kind of forget that ALLDATA has, right? We're typically relying on our estimating systems, CCC Mitchell Auditex Captor for parts and labor, but ALLDATA is a fantastic source of parts and labor for mechanical stuff, right? We've got pretty much everything except for sheet metal times in here, right? This will give you the list of parts and labor in alphabetical order, right? And a lot of times I find that shops will write an estimate and there's certain things that maybe aren't available and just say CCC for example. You guys, David, you're in Canada, so CCC is not up there. Take Mitchell for an example. There might not be labor times in there that are going to be in ALLDATA. So you've got a backup source to be able to look up those labor times on whatever you're dealing with, right? Here's an example of this airbag on this Lexus. We've got OEM part numbers in here, and this pricing you're never really going to go by. These are suggested retail pricing from, or suggested dealership pricing. But here's the meat of it down here, right? You're going to have your labor times here. There's sometimes warranty labor times and then your standard labor times, and it's going to be able to give you kind of a skill level. This one we're looking at here is the R&R for the driver inflator module, right? It's a B, that B means B level tech, right? It's typically A, B, C, B level tech, 0.4 to R&R that. And then there's even a little warning here, calls out before repairing any air restraint system, battery cables and backup power supplies to the system must be disconnected, right? So kind of a shout out that, hey, make sure the battery is disconnected before we proceed with that. Look how many labor times are in here. A great source for that. right? There's also going to be some calibration labor times as well. Instead of going through all this, we can type in calibrate, right? And if we type in calibrate in the search and go down to parts and labor, notice how I've got steering column, steering angle sensor, collision avoidance sensor, cruise control. Click on one of these. And again, it's going to kind of display what we just looked at, parts and labor. But look here, labor, calibrate, lane departure warning. Calibrate that sensor is 1.4. So, you know, we all will probably be in agreement that it's kind of the wild, wild west out there these days when it comes to calibration labor times. We're starting to get more of them added into our system, right? Our goal is to be as comprehensive as possible. There's still a bunch that's missing, but we've got to start on it. And that's typically, I get asked a lot by shops, hey, where do I get calibration labor times? Do you guys have any? Well, we've really pushed hard and now we've got some in here. So I encourage you all, when you're using our program, is to, again, we want to make it easier and more obviously jumping out off the page. But for right now, that's what you have to do is type in calibrate into the search. And then we're going to be able to come up here. We got lane departure warning sensor, right? If we hit the drop down here and go back, you know, steering column angle sensor, click into that one. Here again, position sensor for the steering column R&R 1.2. So this is something we've added recently that's really helping shops a lot to understand. Instead of just kind of guessing on those times, we're seeing kind of the unfortunate thing in the industry is that there's constant negotiation between insurance and shops on, hey, what do I charge? How long did this really take you, right? Insurance companies challenging shops going, how long did it really take you to calibrate this or that? We've got some guidelines now, right? And to be fair, you know, a lot of insurance companies will use ALLDATA as well as an audit tool. So it behooves you to be able to tell insurance companies when you're negotiating with them, hey, look, you know, I'm getting these calibration times from ALLDATA, and insurance companies will typically respect that because they realize that ALLDATA is the top source for information and some labor times in here. And a lot of times it's going to help your negotiation because a lot of those insurance companies also have access to our system and they'll be able to look that stuff up and kind of corroborate what you're saying. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so this Lexus is pretty good. So far we had steering column, we had collision avoidance, and then cruise control. Here there is calibrate sensor for the cruise control. So there's 3 different ones in here, right? And you notice they're all right around the same, 1.4, 1.5. Kind of gives us a more definitive time that we can put on our estimate. Any questions or thoughts?
Just want to add something in there, Tim, just to make sure that people do understand that, yeah, we don't want them guessing. We want them to be able to substantiate their times, and really everybody's entitled to fair compensation. And these are part of the tools and mechanisms to ensure you're being compensated fairly. So, but is your suggestion then that if it's contained in Mitchell, that people should check the ALLDATA system, or if it's contained in Mitchell, should they go with the Mitchell time?
Yeah, and you know, and it's, you know, every situation is different. And my point is that you've got backup labor times here, and I'm pretty confident that in Mitchell there are no calibration times. So, you know, and a lot of this right now we're in the kind of the realm of collision mechanical kind of. We're in this, you know, before in previous years, it seems like it was pretty segmented. Oh, this is collision for sure. This is mechanical. Well, the lines are now blurred between collision and mechanical. You all in collision shops are doing a lot more stuff that's considered mechanical, right? So sometimes those estimating systems are not going to have some of those things that are considered mechanical labor times. So it behooves you just to double check as you have time, or if you're unsure, or if a labor time sounds low or whatever in the estimating system, you know, the call out is just make sure you remember that ALLDATA has labor times in there. They're going to be more typically geared towards mechanical. But again, you're doing more probably mechanical than you realize that are actually mechanical labor times. I see a lot of shops that are actually putting in body labor times for something that's technically mechanical. So it's just something to be aware of, right? And to remember that this tool has plenty of labor times in it. And, you know, if we're a 10th higher on something that maybe is in the estimating system, you might want to pull the ALLDATA time, right? And then put it in your note, right? We're here to make an honest living and get paid for what we're doing. So we've got a couple different tools that are going to help us with those labor times. Hopefully that makes sense. Right, so moving left to right, our popular information, there's systems and components, right? Again, alphabetic order here. Most of the time, we're going to live in body and frame, but we got a lot of other stuff here, right? Accessories and optional equipment, all the DTCs, right? Brakes and traction, cruise control, engine, and so forth as we scroll down, right? And typically what we're going to be living in is body and frame, right? In the collision world. And again, alphabetical list here, you can type in, you can do your search within here. You can do your search up here, right? We're known for our really robust search capabilities. We like to call it a Google-like search that, the more succinct you are and the more exact you are in typing here, the more the more specific results you're going to get. I typed in calibrate here, I got 574 articles. There's a ton of stuff in there, right? And through the search, right, we got ADAS quick reference pulls up different categories: testing and inspection, service and repair, parts and labor, TSBs, service precautions, specs, just a ton of stuff, right? And everything's hyperlinked for easy access. But through here, we can also type within body and frame, right? Type searching within here, or we can scroll down as mentioned, alphabetical order, right? Construction materials, right? We're able to click and see what's going on in this vehicle, clicking aluminum and steel, right? There's locations of these structural materials easily accessed and get a kind of a snapshot of what you're dealing with, right? You've got, this pattern, ultra high strength steel, 980 megapixel, right? Just some different, clearly identifying, if any of you have been in the business for a long time, sometimes don't we yearn for the days of simplicity back when we had regular steel and maybe some ABS plastic. Now we've got all kinds of different steels, boron, magnesium, aluminum, high strength, ultra high strength, all the different grades of plastics. Well, this is your source to identifying pretty much anything that you're faced with out there, right? All the different composites, just a ton of variety out there. And it can be, really challenging to, especially some of the newer folks that we're hiring in our shops. They're less experienced. We know we've got a lot of the baby boomers, age technicians and painters are retiring, right? And so, our goal is to train up our people as well as we can, especially our newbies, right? And this is the program that's used in most of the training institutions, right? A lot of the ICAR uses ALLDATA, of course, and in many of the other trade schools, they're teaching collision or using ALLDATA collision in their curriculum. And we just came back from the Skills USA National Championships in Atlanta. I attended that the week before last, and they use our program in there to teach all the up and coming students that are going through technical schools. We have a lot of shops are there recruiting students. A lot of the bigger MSOs were there recruiting. So again, ALLDATA is the go-to source, and we help them understand how to use this program properly. But as we go through here, right, body control systems, body dimensions, right? We are panel gap tolerances are something that's real important for shops to make sure that we understand the factory gap tolerance. Here are the measurements, right? ABC area. And of course, when we're in here, we can expand, right? Open up to a new tab or zoom in, right? To be able to closer view. Some of us have better eyesight than others, right? Some of us are looking up stuff on the phone, on a tablet. I prefer a laptop because it's just a better view, right? But the cool thing is you're able to access the program through multiple devices, right? Dimensions, right? Every single dimension you can think of is going to be in here from the factory, right? Every different measurement, super important. We see every collision is different. Every claim is different as to the angle where it's hit, the force it is hit with. So we got to be equipped with all the factory dimensions to make sure our repair is true and as close back to factory specs as possible. And dimensions are going to help us do that, right? Any questions or comments so far? I know I got to pace myself because I tend to talk fast, so so I like to pause and make sure if anybody, hey, I got a question on that.
And we're getting the chat box so far. However, I do want to mention with some of the stuff being in inches, how could a customer change the or convert any of the measurements from US to Canadian or metric rather?
Right. So you can go up here to convert, right? We've got a convenient chart up here that you can use, which I never use. Whoops. Sorry about that. So body and frame. Continuing alphabetical order, right, construction materials, and just again, alphabetical order. I want to really highlight, the importance of repairs and inspections required after a collision. This is an oft missed piece within our program. I see a lot of very experienced people don't even know this exists, right? So repairs and inspections. These are things that factory says, hey, look, whenever a Toyota or Lexus vehicle is in an accident, hey, these are things that we want to make sure that you're checking, right? So this one talks about, kind of calling out in the airbag system, the parts listed below are collectively referred to as airbag sensors, blah, 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 blah. All the parts listed are the SRS parts. So they might not be necessarily clearly labeled that way, but repairs and inspections is just calling that out, right? There's different precautions in here. And, some manufacturers are better than others. I like to highlight, like Honda does a really incredible job. We're going to switch vehicles here for a minute. And here's Honda. We'll just do an Accord sedan, right? The 2.0, right? And if we go into body and frame and we go to repairs and inspections, they do a really robust job. Honda does a great job. Subaru is really detailed. GM is really good. But here's SRS component replacement inspection after deployment. This spells out here different scenarios. It says, hey, look, after a collision, blah, 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 where this happens, you got to replace these following items, no questions. This is the most robust one here that I like to use because it's really eye-opening. I've shown so many shops this and they're like, wow, I never knew. This scenario here, after a collision with a side airbag curtain deployed, replace the items for the side that deployed. So I think we'd all be in agreement that obviously the SRS unit and the side curtain airbag be deployed. But did you know that even if they look fine, you got to replace the front seat belt, the side impact sensor, first and second, A pillar trim, B pillar trim, C pillar trim, all grab handles, all related trim clips, sun visor, and headliner. It's really an eye opener because, you can sit there and look at the seatbelt and go, well, that doesn't look damaged to me. It doesn't, factory is saying, hey, look, when the side airbag curtain goes, you got to replace those front seat belts. And so, then sometimes I'll get pushback from shops saying, well, I don't know if I get my insurance company to pay for that. Well, it's a legitimate, comment, but insurance companies are trying to cut back on everything that you all are charging for. So that's why it's important to be armed with factory information, because not only A, we're doing a safe and proper repair according to factory standards, B, get paid for what we're doing, right? We're looking to get paid for everything that we're doing, a fair, labor time on that. And so I originally, doing the research on this, was positioning this to the ALLDATA sales team to be able to understand how to talk to shops and why this is so important. I developed an ROI calculator, and Dave, I hope it's okay if I share this, but this just gives you an idea of obviously, number one, safe, proper repair and the liability that you incur as a shop, but also the dollars this means. This calculator covers from front seat belt all the way down to headliner, because we know you're going to replace SRS unit and airbag. We know that, but the rest of it is where there's money left on the table. Here's the calculator right here. And this right here is taken, these are Mitchell labor times from Mitchell Estimating. and then some labor times from ALLDATA. And these are just nominal parts prices. Here again, here's from the seat belt all the way down to headliner, right? And here's the time taken to handle those. This is your labor rate. So time times labor rate is the bill labor, and then parts and labor together. Here's $2,600, $2,669 is potentially being left on the table. Again, number one, most important, safe and proper repair, liability it's incurred when you're not following factory procedures. But here's the dollar impact right here, right? $226.69. And again, it's going to change with your labor rate. Say maybe your labor rate was 80, right? Boom, there's a difference there, $26.79, right? So just some food for thought. You know, again, calling out the importance of checking repairs and inspections required after a collision on every vehicle. You know, some may have some of this memorized, but again, that's why I made the point in the beginning of we're updating stuff all the time in ALLDATA. So please don't always rely on your knowledge. Yeah, I worked on a Camry 2 months ago in my shop. We don't know that things haven't been updated on that, right? I get guys all the time telling me, well, a Camry is a Camry. I'm going to agree with you on that or disagree with you on that. A 23 Camry is not the same as a 25. I mean, I beg to differ that, remember when a Camry was a pretty simple vehicle, or an Accord was a simple vehicle back in the day? Now they're dang near a luxury car with all these bells and whistles. Things are constantly being added, updated, computerized, you know, sensorized, right? So it's important that we are digging in and making sure that crossing all T's and dotting all the I's, right? It's a safety thing. It's a liability thing. And then again, you know, we want you to get paid for what you're doing, right? So leveraging this can really add a lot. Again, peace of mind of proper repair, and then also raise your average RO. I've had consulted with many shops and showed them this, and they swear their average RO has gone up 2, 3, 4, 500, depending on the scenario, right? So again, the worst possible scenario is a comeback. Cars that are coming back because something failed or something was failed to be checked, right? And obviously there's multiple things that can contribute to that, but first and foremost that we're consulting the areas that factory says you need to consult this when working on one of our vehicles.
Yeah, one question if I could ask, obviously you're kind of touching on this already, but what is the support that ALLDATA can provide to the collision facilities? Because as you mentioned, sometimes the insurers may want to push back on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And what sort of support can they receive from their ALLDATA provider?
Well, you know, I get asked that stuff all the time, and you know, it's just a matter, you know, my main thing is documentation, taking photos, being able to, you know, save the articles that you're looking up, right? Because a lot of times, you know, here's a reality of things in our industry. A lot of insurance companies will hire younger ones out of college that don't have a lot of experience, shop experience, or even understanding how a car comes apart, goes back together, how it's to be fixed, right? So a lot of times I'm saying we as shops, you know, we'll have to educate them. And that's where there's no substitution for documentation, right? We know we've got to get really detailed, taking photos of the damage and then the pre-existing damage and documenting all that stuff, and then attaching documents, you know, and we'll get into how that can be easier in the ALLDATA Repair Planner, right? We're going to save that towards the end. The new tool that ALLDATA now has called ALLDATA Repair Planner makes it a lot easier to do that. Right now, we got to go through here and save each article to make sure, right, we can save to PDF, right click, save to PDF, and put it in your attachments in whatever estimating system you're using. David, is it safe to say that pretty much everybody on the call is from Canada, or is it US and Canada? The
It's mainly Canada.
It's trim in Canada. So that would be, yeah. So I don't want to say CCC. I'm so used to talking CCC because, you know, they're the big player for estimating in US. So it's Mitchell Captor for you all. But, you know, we want to be able to save our articles, attach with any other pertinent documents or photos to prove what we're doing, to prove what the factory says. Because even though the insurance companies will have, most of them have access to our program, it doesn't mean that they're well-versed in it and that they're looking things up consistently. Some of them are. I've met a few of them that are really well-versed. But then again, you know, that's our business in the shops, is to make sure that we're the expert in fixing the car. We got to be, do our due diligence with the factory procedures and then be able to, save those and attach. So that's my biggest admonition, is to document, and put notes in your estimating system, right? I'm doing this, blah, 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 with the notes is important, right? And I know we get in a hurry, we get pressured to get cars in and out of the shop, but we're going to really avoid a lot of pain, a lot of, for lack of better words, negotiation / arguments with insurance companies if we document. And that way the trust is being built up, right? We want to be looked at, obviously, as a trustworthy shop, not only with our customers, but with our insurance partners. I know a lot of guys that could go extra lengths of documenting. Insurance doesn't challenge them because they've got the documentation. They're tired of calling out the shop, and the shop throws all the documents in their face, right? So we can't, in my opinion, you can't over document. I know it takes time, but it behooves the shop to do that, right? And then the other thing I would say, David, is the consistent usage of the ALLDATA program, right? Consistently looking up what you need to look up in the system, right? And that's where this workflow comes. I like to say, we all should have kind of an SOP, right? A standard operating procedure in our shop to make sure that we ensure consistency amongst not only our estimators, but our technicians too. I always like to say that, I get some shops tell me, well, how are you using ALLDATA in your shop? Well, I only use it for if I've got sectioning and welding. Okay, well, great. There's a lot more information. There's 80 million other pages in there for that. And some of them will say, well, only my estimators use it. Why is that? Or some will say, only my mechanic, my techs will use it. Well, here's what I say. Estimators run the cash register, right? That's where all the cash flows through. That's where all the invoices come from. They've got to have access to where they can make adjustments. The technicians, that's where all the liability lays, right? Where most of the liability, they're doing the actual work. Want to make sure that they have access to procedures, especially since I highlighted how much we're updating on a daily basis, right? And then we have a consistent flow, right? Collision, select the vehicle, check position statements, check TSBs, go to body and frame like I was just showing, go to repairs and inspections required after collision, check the construction materials. It's a double check. Make sure there's no, we know that ultra high strength steel, you can't repair, you got to replace, right? We want to make sure we're double checking factory information on that. ADAS quick reference, which I'm going to show you here pretty quick. Calibration labor times, make sure we're typing in that calibrate to look up those labor times and make sure we've got accurate labor times. And then again, if insurance company calls us out, we got the proof. It's right there, the ALLDATA calibration labor times. Battery disconnect, reconnect. Finding a lot of shops are not charging for that, not doing that. A lot of liability and danger in not following proper procedures for definitely EVs, hybrids, and even regular vehicles. Finding a lot of shops are not charging for that. We'll talk about parts and labor. From there, right, you can add stuff to this, but these are the minimum, in my best practice. And then start doing damage panel research, right? And again, you can mix and match the order of these, but this just makes a sensible workflow, right? Consistency is the key. Making sure that we're doing this consistent on every vehicle, not cutting corners. I know we got pressure for cycle times, right, for our insurance companies, but we've got to try to find a happy medium to make sure we're doing a correct, proper repair, right? Damage panel research and start writing the estimate. If we do this, we're going to, really see a dramatic decrease in supplements, right? And so that's the goal. Try to write the most comprehensive estimate in the beginning, right? Doing that pre-scan, doing the research, writing that more comprehensive estimate, because that's really something that insurance companies have a bone to pick with is, gosh, you got 5 supplements on this vehicle, right? We've probably all heard it before. We can reduce the amount of supplements, hence reduce the overall cycle time because we're doing all the research up front. Will other things pop up? I'm sure they will. You keep peeling back the layers of the onion. Sometimes we find extra stuff that we didn't notice the first time. We got the human element, right? So, but I know it's a long explanation, Dave, on what I tell shops, but this is pretty much the advice I'm giving is that.
Tim, we got a question in the chat.
Sure.
Specifically on calibrations, most of the instructions are vague and unclear. If we are doing a remove and install on a bumper, it's hard to determine if sensors needed to be calibrated. Can you show us where to look, like blind spot sensors or wave radar sensors?
Yeah, you know what, and you're already going to the right procedures. It's just that the factory is not clear, right? Because we're always looking for words like must, but sometimes we've got should or could, right? And so that's part of what we work with on the factory to be more defined. That's the challenging part in our industry right now, is that the OEs are not clear on some of those. And so when you're going to the calibration procedures, unfortunately, it is what it is, because we can't change any words in there. You know, our words are verbatim from the factory. ALLDATA just puts it in an easier to access format, because it is really challenging to do what we do and have a kind of a universal layout from, you know, because you guys have already seen, you get frustrated with Mercedes, you get frustrated with Porsche because there's not a ton of information. There's certain other frustrations with other makes. They're not on a universal scale. And so the language is, you know, you're going to calibration procedures, you're going to the right section. It's just that, to your point, whoever asked that question, it is vague. With, you know, part of our mission within our OE relationships is to make sure, you know, helping OEs to understand the feedback from shops like that question. You know, can we be a little bit more clear and concise on whether calibrations are for sure required? So that's something that we're continually working on. But as you can imagine, these OEs are large animals, and, you know, getting them to make changes can be difficult and lengthy, but we're continuing to work on that stuff. So I know that doesn't give you a definitive answer, but that's the way it is. We're taking the language as it comes across, and we're for sure pushing for more definitive language. Insurance companies ask us the same thing. They're going, well, if it's in doubt, we don't want to pay it. Yeah, that's what the shops are hearing. And so it really lies on the OEs, and that's where we're trying to, you know, leverage our relationship with the OEs to help make those things more clear. And if you've got certain makes and models, I'd love for you to send us those in a quick note. You can put it in the chat or whatever. And then, you know, ones that you have consistently run into, we'd love to see those. And then we can take specific examples to the OEs. I'm calling on OEs more and more these days. And so if you guys can give me specific examples, that would be awesome. And then we can get those expedited even more quickly. Is there another one in there?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. But as you can see, this is where you're going to live, right? Getting out of there, this was the award-winning piece of our software. Won the award at SEMA 2022. I can't believe that we got almost 3 years. ADOS Quick Reference has been in the program. It's not a separate program, even though it won an award as like it was its own. It's built into ALLDATA, right? So ADOS Quick Reference is right here. This is basically, all this information has been in ALLDATA for a long time. It's just, you had to dig deep to find it. Now we've got a table here, right? That shows you all the ADOS components on this 2022 Honda Accord, right? You got, you know, and what location they're part of, right? Front bumper millimeter wave radar, bumper front and rear. You got parking and backup sensors, blind spot information radar in the rear bumper, dashboard instrument panel. We got 3 different things here, DECLA and so forth, right? So each ADOS component's listed. As we go left to right, it tells you what system it's part of. And the cool thing is, if you R&R, R&I, any of these things, it's going to tell you yes or no calibration, static or dynamic. In this case of the millimeter wave radar, right? It's part of the adaptive cruise control, part of the emergency braking system, forward collision warning, lane departure, and lane keeping, right? If you R&R, R&I that, it's going to require static calibration, right? So, and each component is hyperlinked, right? So click on millimeter wave radar. It's going to tell you what we have available, what the factory has published for millimeter wave radar. And collision avoidance sensor, that's the other terminology, right? So here's again what we do. There's different terminologies. Certain manufacturers call one thing the other, and then we try to standardize some of the terminology as far as what things are named. Collision avoidance sensor is millimeter wave radar, right? So we got diagrams, parts and labor, service and repair, which is removal and replacement, and testing and inspection, right? So you've got initial inspection, programming and relearning, all the procedures there, and then symptom related diagnostic procedures. So again, there's different things that can be triggered when something malfunctions. But again, parts and labor, right? Again, don't forget, we've got a good guide in here for this one, sensor remove replace 0.4, right? And I want to make sure people aren't confused. You see these add buttons here. When you have ALLDATA collision, you won't have the add buttons. If you have our shop manager program, which is it's an invoicing program that a lot of mechanical shops use. But some collision shops use it too because they want to bill for calibrations and whatnot, or mechanical work. Sometimes some shops will sub out to themselves mechanical work. If you have shop manager feature, you will have these add buttons to where you can start an invoice from right here, right? So, I'm sure some are thinking, hey, I have ALLDATA and I don't see those add buttons in there. That's what that is the ALLDATA shop manager, where you can quickly start an invoice from right here. But again, parts and labor, again, just OE referencing and just, OE pricing, which you all won't be too concerned with. The main thing is the labor times. And I'm curious how that stacks up against to what you guys have in your estimating system, right? Removal, replacement. Here's the millimeter wave radar removal and installation, step-by-step procedures. We're going to be right there, right? Any special tools. I'm preaching to the choir for those of you that use ALLDATA every day. So ADAS quick reference is fantastic. Shops love it. Now, to be clear, this is everything that could be on the vehicle. What we're looking at in the near future is to have VIN build data, right? We're working on that currently, adding VIN build data to where it is, you type the VIN in on this vehicle and it's going to give you exactly what the vehicle came with, right? It's not only packages of, we've got so many different trim level packages, different front end configurations, different headlamp assemblies, but also ADAS systems, right? Because this is everything that could be on the vehicle. Soon we're going to have everything that is on that vehicle. That was what the VIN specifies, how the vehicle was built from the factory. So that's going to be huge, right? We've got a lot of feedback on that from shops that'd be super valuable. And so we're looking forward to that, right?
Any sort of a time frame on that, Tim?
No time frame, because my product team is really good at deflecting times when I'm pressuring them all the time. Because I'm the one who brings them back. Well, Jonathan and I and a lot of the national account team, we get a lot of great feedback from shops, and that's how we make our products better. And so, we're bringing that to the table going, hey, look, this would be fantastic for shops to have. And so we're doing a bunch of research right now. We're delving into AI and all that good stuff to help us develop that. But I really feel like it's going to be a game changer, having the VIN built data, because it's going to save time for shops, right? You're going to be able to understand, hey, look, this vehicle was had a front end collision. Here's what I'm dealing with on this particular vehicle. I know it's got a millimeter radar, this, and this, right? So, here's my blueprint. Here's my, here's our game plan on this scenario. Every scenario is different.
And we got a question in the chat.
Okay.
Is there a place that shows if a wheel alignment triggers the need to do any calibrations, or could it be added to the quick reference to show if you need to do a specific calibration requires a wheel alignment first? One thing I want to call out is a steering angle sensor. Maybe you could go live and pull up a steering angle sensor recalibration and what that would trigger an alignment with.
Yeah. So
I'll give you an example. The 24 Silverado, on the steering angle sensor, it does have it a note on the quick reference chart.
Chevy truck, you said a Silverado?
Yes, sir. Towards the very bottom in the steering column area, it's got a steering angle sensor, and it'll call out some additional info.
Okay, steering angle sensor right here. right? So wheel alignment right here.
Exactly.
Yep. Yep, steering sensor is internal to like your EPS, centering, blah, 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 blah. Some of the procedures are as follows: wheel alignment, steering gear replacement, steering column replacement, collision, or other physical damage. So there you go.
Just to clarify,
Yes.
because I think the question was maybe the other way around, looking at if they're putting a wheel alignment onto the vehicle, is there a section where the wheel alignment would give you notes as to are there other calibration components attached to that alignment?
Good call, Dave. I misread the question there. To your point, a lot of times in any follow-on or any procedure, it's going to have follow-on items that'll be called out in the OE procedure. That'll say it at the end. For example, if you perform a battery disconnect on some vehicles, it may tell you that you have to do a steering angle sensor or 0-point calibration. So maybe not specifically in alignment calling out a recalibration, or anything specific regarding a recalibration. However, if you pay attention to the bottom of any of the repair procedures, you're going to see additional follow-on procedures on a lot of your items. Another example would be a headlight. If you remove and install a headlight, it's going to call out a headlight adjustment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tim, we got about 7 minutes left.
Okay.
Wrapping up, and then
we'll okay. Yep. All right. Any other questions? Right. We tackled ADAS quick reference. Right. The other thing is we find that a lot of times battery is skipped. Right. I want to show you some labor times on battery. It's something that we should be searching every time. Right. Here's parts. Here's labor. Look at the amount of labor times for battery, right? We got battery current sensor, R&R, battery R&R negative, positive, cable, battery terminals clean. How often do we find that a car comes in and is sitting for a while, the battery goes down, right? You can charge 0.4 for battery charge or test. You can charge 0.3, this is mechanical labor time, by the way. Battery terminals clean, right? And then of course, all the R&R remove, replace stuff. And we just, I noticed that in the industry, there's just, a lot of shops are skipping that, right? Not only skipping the procedures, but they're able to charge for it, right? I'm getting a lot of comments that claims are down now. I've had a big MSO call me the other day, 20 locations, and they're like, yeah, we're down about 10%, but we're hearing a lot of our neighbors are down 20, 25%, right? Well, it's hard if there's less claims out there, but what can we do to fight that? We can, certainly do a more comprehensive effort in using ALLDATA and making sure these certain things that were on that workflow chart that we're checking, and battery's one of them, right? Again, not only looking up the procedures, but making sure that we're charging the right, labor rate, which is mechanical, and looking at this. I mean, there's a lot of potential here, potential mechanical labor time. Add those up. How many cars are you doing a week, a month, or a year, right? It can really make an impact on your bottom line.
Then we have another question in the chat. We would like to find electrical fuse maps. Is this something that is available to but buried somewhere?
Electrical fuse maps. I'll let you take that one, Jonathan. Have you looked those up recently?
Absolutely. So if you go to power and ground distribution in the middle column, if you could just click on the vehicle there for me. If you go down to power and ground distribution, you can select the fuse and fuse panel in the option there. It'll be fuse or fuse block. Depending on the OE, it's going to be right into one of these. So click on connector views, for example, for this vehicle. And then just select any of the first 5 there that say X1 through X5. Yeah. So this is going to be where you can find it. If you won't find any fuse block information here, it's going to be under the OE diagrams and the connector views. Some of the OEs, especially in some of your older vehicles, will not break out the fuse panel diagrams like what we're looking at here outside of the connector views.
Yeah.
We have another question in the chat. If Mitchell has its own labor time and ALLDATA shows different, are we doing Mitchell's labor time, or can we use ALLDATA's labor information?
Yeah, that's up to you guys. I mean, that's certainly up to you. Like I mentioned before, if we're a tenth or more, that's your shop's choice, right? Mitchell, there's two different labor guides out there. One is Mitchell International, which does their own time studies, and then there's Motor, right? So there's going to be some differentiators there, but it's up to you as a shop's discretion on what you're going to bill. Yeah, so we only got a few minutes left. I want to make sure that bookmarks is a very valuable feature right here to be able to. A lot of times we are multitasking, looking up vehicles. You can bookmark that vehicle up to 20. I think it's 20 that we can save in here. And then, while you're multitasking, go back and forth between vehicles so you don't lose your place in an article that you may have looked hard for. Library, our library request is fantastic. The only type of service like it in the industry. The rule of thumb is if you're looking for 5 minutes or longer on something, you can't find it. Either the factory didn't produce it or you couldn't find it or whatever. Do a library request. The SLA is 30 minutes or less. We'll get back to you. Right now, we're currently running anywhere between 16 and 17 minutes. A lot of times, if you're multitasking on vehicles and you can't find something, shoot a library request in. They'll get back to you, within 16 to 30 minutes. And meanwhile, you can move on to something else that you're working on. Library is fantastic. Just want to make sure everybody knew that. Right. I want to just highlight ALLDATA Repair Planner, right? It's our newest product. It's been out for over a year now. A lot of shops are loving it. ALLDATA Repair Planner is a system that connects directly to your estimating system. It interfaces with CCC, Mitchell, and Autotex, right? And what happens is you write an estimate, save it. Right now, it's not automated from Mitchell or Autotex Captor. You're able to import from right here. We're working on an automated deal that when you write an estimate, save it, it automatically comes into Repair Planner. We'll be there shortly on the automation part, but right now you can import it. Behind the scenes, we create a folder that points to the estimate folder. Then you're able to copy those lines into ALLDATA. So what happens is, the Subaru Crosstrek, it was written, we imported the document. It analyzes all the line items as you see here from your estimate, and then gives you all the repair procedures to the right? We can click the drop down. Anything that the factory has published on that particular item, you're going to be able to get right here. So these icons look similar, don't they? Familiar. We just looked at those in ALLDATA Collision, right? Here, we deliver you all the information by line, right? So I like to say that it kind of drives the right behavior, that this kind of, encourages us to look up procedures on every vehicle, and you're able to just go right in here and be able to, see whatever we're looking at here, front door panel, and go right into the procedures like we did through regular ALLDATA. But, we can get a couple clicks. It's much faster, right? And again, kind of drives that right behavior, right? Click on this X here in the black, and we're back into Repair Planner. Left to right real quick. It's super simple, right? We can set these to automatically purge up to 99 days. I say, when you're done with an estimate, just come over here to actions and delete it, get it out of there. It's still in your estimating system, but flush it out, right? And vital repairs, all the stuff that we highlighted that's important to look up is right here. ADAS quick reference, DTCs, collision avoidance and parking assist systems, and repairs and inspections required after a collision. So everything we talked about that's critical to make sure that maybe we're not looking up that we should be looking up is right here under vital repairs, right? Library request, which we just talked about, is right there, right? So this is basically an efficiency tool that enables us to get to the repair procedures much more quickly, right? All kinds of new features coming out. We have a briefcase feature that is right around the corner that's going to be able to time and date stamp everything that each technician looks up. It's going to document that access, and then you're able to put everything in one clean PDF and save it to wherever you want to save it, including in your estimating system. So remember we talked about document. This is going to streamline. This is what I was talking about, this new feature that's going to help us streamline and be able to accurately document and save pertinent information to the repair. I know that we're right at 2 o'clock, Dave, so I'm sorry, the hour went by fast, but
Also, a lot of information, and we've got a lot of people still staying on the line, so we'll let people continue on as they do. We'll keep on recording, and again, this session is being recorded. So if you've heard information and you want to be able to go back to it, we'll be able to post this on our site.
Yeah.
So we'll keep going, but I also want to. I was maybe remiss in the beginning to recognize our sister locations as well, because we have our partners in Saskatchewan through the SARA group, as well as in Manitoba through the ATA, and we have a lot of their members attending today as well. So this information will be made available to everybody, so you'll be able to come back to it, and we'll take it from there. So keep on going.
Yeah. So repair planner again, right? This is a dummy estimate, so your estimate number will be here. And it just is extracting basic information. As far as the main goal is to not be extracting any personal information from the estimate. It's just the estimate lines are what matters, right? Your make, model, engine, right? And then the pertinent information here. And again, it's designed to have quick access. Some people like to call it a scrubber. It's not really a scrubber. It's an analyzer. It's analyzing each line item. As you can see, right? Line item, operation, remove, replace, description, part type, part description, which really doesn't matter. We're just looking for whatever the factory's published here. Body labor, hours, right? And again, information here. And I find that, again, I like to highlight parts and labor in here. A lot of times you write the initial estimate. Sometimes there's a guess on labor time, right? This is a great way to access labor times right from the line item to compare, right? I think this one's going to be remove, replace. So this right here, R&R sensor remove, replace 3.6 hours. Did you guys notice what was put in the estimate? 0.4. I mean, that's quite a difference there. And but here's the reality. I mean, there's a human error in there, or it's easy to confuse this for that. Maybe the estimating system didn't have it in there. So it behooves you to check, right? We hit the drop down, we got service, we got step-by-step procedures right here for the parking assist distance sensor, right? R&R, I'm sorry.
And Tim, is it correct to assume that that is talking with the bumper already disassembled, or is that a standalone operation?
Yeah, that's a good call. It's not clear right here. This is remove, replace. Well, it says one side. So I would imagine that it would be, right? With bumper. But then again, that is a potential mistake an estimator could make, not remembering or thinking that the whole bumper has to come off for that. So the point is double check, right? Really, you can have a ton of estimates in here. For a larger shop with multiple estimators, you can filter and sort by different things. RO number or whatever, name, make, model. But it's a streamlined, again, it's an efficiency tool. It's going to have your estimating system up here, claim number, dollars, but really what you're concerned with is the information that it's giving you, right? There's different things that are coming down the pike for this. Like I mentioned, the briefcase feature. We're going to do something with calibration times in here to where you're not going to have to search for it. It's going to be much more automated, and there's a lot of cool things coming down the pike. You can switch back and forth between collision and repair planner right here. Get into collision, back to repair planner. You can also access regular collision up through here. You can go in through there. Help and feedback, we didn't cover that, but you got in-product guidance, support and training, contact ALLDATA, and product feedback, right? If there's something that you come across going, man, I wish this had this, I wish that they would do this or change this or add this. This is where you want to put your feedback right here. Product feedback. Right? Any questions or comments?
Nothing in the chat at this time.
Okay.
Well, there is one question that's in there, and it's worth, identifying that insurance companies don't want people changing labor times, and that is a valid point. So sometimes when we come across these scenarios, this may in fact be the impetus to contact Mitchell to look at them doing an update to their system as well too, to confirm their times, because
Yeah.
we've got all data information coming from the OE supply, and we have the Mitchell estimating platform with its process and or test components and how they determine their time. So it's always important to remember that we do need to respect the fact that, yeah, insurance companies don't want us to change times. However, if you're able to validate and document, as Tim's identified, then you're in a much better position. You're not just arbitrarily changing a time for the sake of changing a time. You've got something
Yeah.
to back it up.
Yeah, and it's legitimately too. How long did it really take your tech to do it? I know that a lot of times our best techs are beating those labor times, and that's what we want. But we want to be fair about it, and just get an honest day's wage for what we're doing for each component that we're working on. So yeah, there's always going to be that. There's always going to be human error, but the main thing is we want everyone to know today is just awareness, right? Consistency, awareness, and and reaching out to ALLDATA if you do have questions, right? We've got also, we didn't talk about Tech Assist. We have a department that, library is one thing, can help you look up information, get information that you can't find. Tech Assist is another add-on feature where we've got 40 ASE master techs on our staff. They're mostly experts in more of the mechanical realm, but then that also includes ADAS and diagnostics. It's a service that a lot of shops take advantage of because, again, the lines are more blurred between collision and mechanical. We're doing a lot more mechanical stuff that maybe we don't think is mechanical, but it's technically considered mechanical. We've got a feature there that you can leverage. Like I said, it costs a little bit more, but we have a lot of shops that leverage that because finding good, solid support and professional advice from ASE Master Techs is hard to find. We've got the creme de la creme at our system. We've got a lot of, we're really picky who we hire. The top 1% of ASE Master Techs is what it takes to work at ALLDATA as an ASE Master Tech. So keep that in mind that service is available because, again, we find more and more shops, even since the pandemic, more and more shops are keeping more under their roof. They're subletting less because that's how some of us had to survive throughout the pandemic, is that we added a mechanical bay or are doing more things that we used to sublet out. There's quite a few shops like that. And that's where this would really apply to, is a Tech Assist program is available if you are, confronted by some of those more, mechanical challenges out there. We have that available.
Tim, another question in the chat. I typed back asking for additional clarification, but it moved it over to answered. So maybe we could do our best here. Or someone's asking, are we able to print from the page, print this page from Repair Planner? I believe what the question is being asked is, can you print the repair procedures? So if you could open up just any repair procedure on from Repair Planner.
Yeah.
Just click on any replacement procedure from there, and then you'll see the print icon over on the right-hand side.
Yep. Print icon, right? And then for right now, you can either print it or you can save as a PDF right here, right? And you can save it electronically. I mean, some shops like to print out for their technician. I like to recommend too, some shops will have their frame rack out in the shop and they'll have internet access through whatever system that is. Say you got a chief rack or whatever, and you got access to internet, and then have a printer out in the shop. You can do that. More and more shops are giving tablets to their technicians to be car side, and then some are using their phone, right? So maybe you don't want to save paper and not print stuff out. Having the phone car side, tablet car side. I mean, car side for me in a shop, it's better the tablet because the bigger screen. That's just me. Some guys have carts with laptops that they're able to move around. Goliath cart I've seen at a shop I was just at recently with a laptop strapped in there, and the guys share it, And then for documentation, this is what I was talking about before, save as a PDF. You can attach to your to your repair order, right? And then what we're talking about also, there's gonna be a briefcase feature inside of here to where anything you looked up is time and date stamped, saved into one clean PDF. And then there's gonna be a save functionality in here. I've already seen it. It's in testing right now with our product team, development team, and it's really slick. You're gonna be able to save to PDF right here and point where you want to save it. So it's really gonna be cool. So Repair Planner is gonna have that option to where you don't have to go individually save each one. It's going to have a whole package. That's why we call it briefcase, packing it all up into one and then saving into one clean PDF.
Jim, one component that I've always wondered about as well is in that PDF view, are you able to highlight so you can actually save the highlighted version? So if there's a specific component that you're trying to highlight for a tech, you can either circle it or highlight it so it stands out on the page.
Yeah, it's a good call. I'll take that as a note. I'm not sure if that'll be done on this go around.
Yeah, because time is money. So obviously people
Yeah.
are cognizant that they don't want the tech to have to read 30 pages when you've already identified that, hey, there's one step I don't want you to miss. And
Yeah.
highlight it, make it easy for the tech.
Yeah, no, great call out. Makes sense.
Then we got some follow-up context from the chat regarding the previous question we had. We had went into the printable opportunities within the repair procedures, and the attendee had specified that they were looking for the ability to print from the repair line so that they can use it in the shop. So this screen, exactly what you're looking at, is probably what they would be looking to accomplish for a print.
Oh, you mean from Repair Planner? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I tried to hit Control P and it comes out pretty distorted, but from what I understand, as of right now, we don't have the ability to print from here. However, keep in mind the line number over on the very far left-hand side is the line number that is on the estimate. So if you have Repair Planner on your computer in the shop, out in the shop, you can, if you remember that you're going to line 15, you can very quickly pull this up right on the laptop next to the car if that's what you desire.
Well, and on that, the release is coming up pretty quick for the saved that I was talking about, the briefcase. There's a print button right here. So there's going to be one called attach and one print, because I've been working on it with the product team. So you're going to be able to print and attach from here. So answer to your question, yes, that's right around the corner.
And there are also the ability to just snip a screen as well too, right? So if somebody wants to copy a screen, they can do that as well. So it gives them that opportunity.
Yep, I'm a big snipper. I love the snipping tool. Yep.
Okay,
Good stuff.
I'm going to put us all back up on the screen here as well. And so I know what I want to do is I know that we're starting to lose a couple of people here as well. Obviously, we've been running over quite a bit. What I want to do is also just to ensure that everybody recognizes that we have the opportunity for people, if they want to go into our system and look at some of the pricing options. Although we have people that are from Saskatchewan, Manitoba, as long as you're part of your association in good standing, you basically are part of our association as well. So we have on our website, we have a preferred supplier area that does allow people to see what is actually available in the way of discounted prices. So I encourage you to go on there. It'll show you some of the different package options that are available and the discounted price that's available to members in good standing. So I encourage people to go on and have a look at that. And I don't want to drag this on too long because obviously we have people that have been on the line for quite a period of time. So gentlemen, if I can close this up, I just want to thank you both. Some excellent information here, very informative. As I say for everyone, we will have this recording posted up onto our website, and I'll have it shared between the SAR and the ATA group as well, so that they'll be able to send it out on our behalf as well. And a couple of really good takeaways. Probably one of the biggest things and the most critical piece that you mentioned, Tim, is that people need to think of their, the estimators as the cash register, as you say. I've always looked at them as the chief financial officer, is what I've always said. Putting up an estimate, you're not getting paid for it. And then you've got your technicians where the liability rests. So if they're not accessing the information and knowing what has to happen, you're being put at risk. And that's really what the argument is when we're dealing with insurance companies, is we're doing this to ensure the vehicle is back to its 100% condition. And also we have to mitigate the risk that's attached to that as well, because nobody wants to get sued. We saw what that looked like down in the US doing something improperly. we can't afford to do that anymore. So there's a lot of emphasis for having to do it the right way. So.
Yeah.
All right, well, gentlemen, I want to thank you both very much again, and thank you to all the participants from BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Really been a pleasure passing this information to you guys. If there is additional types of information that you guys see that you'd like to have us as an association or your own association explore further, reach out to your advisors, and we can do what we can do to help ensure that industry is put in a position where you're ensuring that you're not working for free, because as we know, you're entitled to fair compensation, and no insurer can argue with that point. So, all right, well, everyone, I wanted to thank you all again. And as mentioned, thank you to Jonathan, thank you to Tim. Really appreciate the time you guys have put into this, and for providing all this great detail. And we will have this information out to the rest of industry very shortly.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you.